Hello and welcome to the Wellbeing podcast, where we talk about all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My name is Zach Bush. I am your host, and today I have a very special guest, friend of mine, owner of Crossfit Enlighten, teacher Zach Wilson. Zach, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm pumped to be here.
Awesome. So we were talking a little bit before, like I mentioned, owner of CrossFit Enlightened, teacher, soon to be father, super exciting stuff. Why don't you give people a little bit more of your background through health and fitness, through owning the gym, and just whatever else you want people to know about you?
Yeah. So I have kind of I guess, in the CrossFit space, pretty cookie cutter path into my post school health and fitness journey. I was a collegiate athlete, swam all through college, and then after I graduated at 22, basically kind of needed a way to really find myself again in health and fitness. For probably like 2 years, I really let myself go, and and I thought that avenue originally was going to be like obstacle course racing. I got really into like Spartan races and Tough Mudders, and I decided, if I'm going to be good at this, I need to like cross train. So found my way into a CrossFit gym and fell in love with it. It had that little bit of competitive kind of edge to it that I missed from college swimming, and kind of being that early 20s ex collegiate athlete, that I needed to scratch that itch, and it just fell in love and kind of spiraled from there. But I was actually very surprised that the avenue that really I latched onto the most was coaching. Natural teacher. That's what like you said, that's what I went to school for. And I absolutely fell in love with working with athletes that came into the gym, people who wanted help in improving their health and fitness, finding their own path on their fitness journey, and kind of really dialing in some things and achieving those personal goals. And from there, I coached for 6 or 7 years, and one day kind of had that opportunity arise to start my own gym, and here we are with CrossFit Enlighten. Super exciting.
Awesome. So when it comes to kind of getting started, I had a similar start in CrossFit where, I did soccer in college, and I started CrossFit in high school and kind of continued it as a supplement, lifting to soccer and swimming and all that. And like you said, when those sports ended and I graduated and it was job time, and I was like, I guess I'll just keep doing CrossFit. I don't know what else to do. And luckily, CrossFit is a sport, that you've known. And so that was something that kind of helped fill that gap for me. I kind of just rolled right from one into the other. So I was fortunate in that aspect. So kind of similar path for me as well. It sounded like you kind of got into the Spartan races before CrossFit. Was that just something you knew you were interested in, or was there a friend or a couple buddies from like the swim team or whatever that was interested? Like, how did you get into Spartan races, and did you get in with anybody else?
Yeah, so it was a friend of mine's dad. Actually, he's actually a monster. He's like always at the top 2 or 3 in his age group. He's probably in his like late 50s now. So growing up, also like guy I swam with, his dad, my buddy reaches out to me. He goes, hey, my dad's doing this Spartan race. He knew you were looking to get into something. Hey, would you be interested in jumping in with him? So my buddy, his dad, and one of our other friends like went up to North Jersey and got into the Spartan race, and it was like, I was like, wow, like that is exactly what I wanted. I needed this. I needed to go run up and down a mountain, carry heavy stuff, and it just clicked. So it was actually him, just that, ironically enough, like reaching out to me out of the blue to be like, hey, like we're gonna do this thing, like come on with us. And that kind of was the catalyst to everything.
Yeah. So, and Spartan races, like I'm somewhat familiar. I've seen the ads, and I've never personally done one. I'm sure a lot of people have seen them too. So what is this like Spartan race? Are they all the same? Like obviously they take place in different areas, but is there like a basic structure, and then based on that specific race, there's different obstacles? Or kind of explain a little bit more about what a Spartan race entails?
Yeah, so Spartan race they have different distances. They're I think their sprint is like a 5K. And then the middle, which I think they call a super, is a 10K. And then there's an even longer one that is probably like a 15K. And each one has a set number of obstacles in it. And the obstacles are pretty standardized across the races. They just, for the longer races, they add more obstacles. They typically hold them at, they hold them in Citizens Bank Park down here in Philly, like those short sprint ones. There's some pretty popular ones that are up in like the ski resorts in like North Jersey, New York. And so, yeah, it was just a kind of a really fun way to go out and run on a mountain and hit these different obstacles. And I had run cross country in high school. I was a swimmer in college. I was like, oh man, this is great. It's like just like a tough triathlon. That's what I'm going to go do. And it was great. But and obviously being the out of shape ex swimmer who was maybe like 130 pounds soaking wet at the time, like definitely needed a little bit of prerequisite strength and fitness to do it a little bit more intensely.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of that gap, being out of, the 2 year, I mean, probably not out of shape as much as maybe out of shape compared to where you are now, but so was there a true 2 year gap from like swimming to starting this Spartan race where like you kind of doing anything and trying to figure out what you were doing, at least fitness wise?
Yeah, well, it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything. It just I kind of fell back on like cross country training, like and a little bit of swimming here and there. Coming out of college, I had injured my shoulder my senior year. Like had like a partial tear in my rotator cuff, and I was a distance swimmer, so I didn't really have the capacity in my like shoulders to just get in the pool and swim for hours like a lot of people do. And I was like, all right, well, best thing I can probably do is I'll just go out and run. But then I started getting really bored. I was like, I don't want to go run. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I started picking up like weird I got like a kettlebell from a local fitness shop, and I'd go out and I'd run a mile. I'd come back to my apartment and like swing the kettlebell around a little bit, and then I'd go out and run another mile, and then I'd come back and I'd do like push-ups. And I was probably like doing CrossFit without knowing I was doing CrossFit.
I was about to say, that sounds pretty similar.
Sounds pretty similar. Yeah. Like I've done that workout before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, I was doing it like 2 times a week, 3 times a week at most, just like to feel like I was moving, like I had some purpose. But anything like focused on really trying to like set some goals, I didn't have any goals. I think that's why I kind of call it that 2 year gap, is like I had no idea of what my body would be capable of, like what was I trying to accomplish in my fitness. And that didn't come until much later. That came like probably in my mid 20s, like 2015 was when I started CrossFit. And that's when I realized like I can get stronger. Like I could be much stronger, much more fit, and be fit for a longer period of time than like just swimming, staring at a black line for 5 hours a day.
Yeah. And so you have the fitness experience, you're kind of doing CrossFit without realizing you're doing CrossFit, but still, even going into a CrossFit gym can be super intimidating, even if you are in shape, right? Because you've got barbells overhead, people are doing muscle ups, they're swinging on the bars, they're doing all this crazy stuff. So you walk in and you see all this. How do you overcome, I'm sure, the initial overwhelm, anxiety of going into a CrossFit gym for the first time? Like, what did that look like for you going into the gym the first time?
Oh, it was totally nerve-wracking. I remember showing up to the gym that Monday and just looking around and being totally intimidated by everybody in there. And at the time, there was a big group of guys in there that like were, I think at the time when I walked in, like over in the corner, like doing heavy clean and jerks or something. And I was like, what is happening here? Like I had no idea what I had just walked into. But the thing that really kind of that eased my nerves a little bit was the coach at the gym at the time, it was 5-star at the time, and the coach Sean had walked up to me and super kind, and then 2 or 3 other people walked up and they're like, "Hey, like how are you?" Like the really like friendly, like relaxed atmosphere kind of like put me at ease. And then as the class got started, I realized like, oh, I don't have to know everything. I don't have to know how to do everything. Like, I don't know how to do these movements. I can't lift that amount of weight, but having the coach there and the community there that kind of had immediately like accepted this random stranger that walked into the gym as like one of their own, like helped me to realize that like, oh man, like I just need to start where I'm at. And that was kind of a light bulb moment of you don't have to be at the end of the journey like right away. Like you it's like, hey, enjoy where you're at right now. And like that does a lot to settle the nerves and get rid of some of those anxious thoughts, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that because it's so easy to see the other people and go, "Oh, I'll never be like that," and just kind of jump to that conclusion, or like, "Oh, they're so much further along than me." Obviously, I'm just getting in, but still, like those just negative thoughts start piling in when it's something brand new, getting out of your comfort zone. And a lot of the times, like the most intimidating looking people are like the nicest. And especially when I go to CrossFit gyms, like each gym has its own little culture to it, but in general, they're all the same. They're all supportive. And the more experienced people I've found are usually the most helpful. They've been there. They know what it's like. They've put the time in and they want to see other people succeed. Is that kind of the same experience that it sounds like that's the same experience that you had going into that gym? And I'm sure you've seen it in other gyms as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's like the best part. I remember when I was just starting out, one of the guys in the gym, I think as I was like really learning how to like string pull-ups together. And every Monday he would come over and be like, hey, come on, like we're gonna do this like 10 rounds of 10 bench press, 10 pull-ups. Like you're gonna do it with me. And so he kind of like took me under his wing and it was really cool being able to like do something a little bit out of my comfort zone, which like I've never been strong on the bench press. I still can probably get out benched by like all of the teenagers that I teach. Um, but it was such a cool atmosphere to get into and like really be taken into the community and like so it's one of the things that I fell in love with, right? And that's like drank the Kool-Aid right away, right? And I mean, I'm sure in those early days there were workouts where I went in and I was like, I'm gonna destroy this, like a long run and air squats, like heck yeah, I'm gonna just beat everybody in the gym, and then I would be humbled immediately. But yeah, it is one of those things that just like that is those people in the gym really are the ones that make it.
100%. It's always about community. That always helps keep consistent and get going. I mean, I met my wife through CrossFit. I know a lot of people who met their spouses or like best friends through there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're kind of the same way, where it's like you went into this being this new guy who didn't know anybody, and now, especially being the owner, like all of your close friends are people who are just doing CrossFit.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my fiance met at the gym. We're getting married August 16th. So, um, and yeah, all like my close circle of friends, like a lot of the guys in my wedding, my best man I met through CrossFit. So like it's yeah, that is the coolest part about it is it's more than just your typical gym.
Yeah, and I think that's why it gets like the cult reputation. I think anything where it like creates this tight bond between people, right? I mean, suffering next to people definitely helps create the bond, but I think that's why from the outside, if you're not familiar with it, it's such a tight knit community that it looks kind of culty, but that's kind of the specialness of it. That's the power of it, is that you get so close with so many people so quick that it is really, really good. And, along with the cultiness of it, right? You have the misnomer that you get injured at CrossFit, right? That I think it was
Yeah.
some doctor like made up the stats, and I think CrossFit sued him or whatever, and like basically saying that the injury rate is higher, which is not true. Like when you got in there, you had a coach helping you guide through the movements, making sure you're doing it right. So, injury isn't as super prevalent, but you coming in, you said you had a shoulder injury, and this was before CrossFit, right? It was through swimming. So what
Yep.
did that affect you? How did you have to work around it? Did you have to work around it? And like, how did that work? Because I know some people like either are dealing with injuries or have past injuries going into CrossFit.
Yeah, and so this was yeah, it was I had a partially torn tendon in my rotator cuff, just overuse from swimming. Like I said, in college, I was a 500-meter, 1,000 mile, sorry, 500-yard, 1,000-yard mile swimmer. Love to do like open water races. So I was training probably 10,000 yards a day for 6 years easily. Um, and that having to work around that at first, I definitely found a lot of difficulty with like overhead movements. Anything that I had to go up overhead with a barbell, anything I had to stabilize overhead squats, things like that. Even up through the first like 2 or 3 years, I still had difficulty with like single arm movements, dumbbell snatches, any like kind of single arm kettlebell movement, some stuff like that. And one of the best things that I had ever heard was like, sometimes you need to take a step back to make 2 steps forward. And it was like, so I had to kind of focus on scaling first, right? It was on, that was the big thing. It was like, hey, you can't do that weight overhead, but if you go a little bit lighter and do the movement right, like you're going to get stronger. And I think that little carrot dangling for me was like, oh, I'll be stronger down the road, was like, yes, like that's what I want. So having those coaches in my ear tell me like, no, don't do that weight, or go do this exercise to help build the strength around that shoulder. And it has done so much good for my body in the long term. I think in 8, 9 years of doing CrossFit now, I have not had a single major injury. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I've got the 2 day soreness after doing Murph, probably. That's about the that might be the extent of it. But yeah, no, like I I same thing. I've read these comments about it, and seen the videos, like you'll get so hurt doing CrossFit. And I don't understand it. Even people at my gym, like it's these, I don't see these injuries that people talk about. And when you do have little bumps and bruises and tweaks, or you come in with injuries from past sports or accidents, life, right? Um, it is important to know that like those coaches are there to help. And if you do the little things right, you will walk out on the other side being so much stronger and so much more confident in what your body can do post like recovering from that injury.
Yeah, 100%. And that's also the beauty of CrossFit, is the infinite scalability of it. We can work around, a good coach will help you work around any injury, will know when you should scale or help you when you should scale, because building the foundation of the movements, right? It might feel slow and everybody progresses at different pace. It's a good coach will be able to help you work through it. And it's better to get the fundamentals down, the movement patterns right, because it'll help you in the long term stay injury free, safer. But to be able to get those weights up, if that's what you desire, down the road, I think it's easy to get caught up in, especially people who join together, whether it's spouses or like best friends. Since everybody increases their capacity at different paces, it might be tempting to look at somebody and be like, oh, he's lifting more than me, it's quicker than me, right? But to learn the patterns and take a little bit longer, in a year from now, you'll see that gap, like you said, where how much further you've come. And so, how long did it take you, do you think, from like kind of when you got started and working around the injury and scaling up and making sure you're doing things right, to the point where like you're doing everything as prescribed and not scaling everything, and like you're feeling good and you're getting strong? Like, what did that time frame look like? And did you run across any challenges mentally, physically, as you kind of build up to the capacity that you're at now?
Yeah, I think I would say it probably took me a good like 2 solid years of just kind of grinding away before I realized like, oh, I'm doing every workout as prescribed. I'm like, I've added all this weight to my lifts. That was I think I, taking a look back at that time, I was like, wow, I've come so far. And I kind of got to that hump where I like started hitting a lot of PRs, and um, I could do the workouts, like a lot of those benchmark workouts as they were written. And that was a cool feeling, but it did take a while. It wasn't something that happened overnight. But I had always thrived on like gymnastics movements. I could move my body really well because, like I said, was kind of on the smaller side. So like I'm not very tall. I wasn't a very big dude coming out of college. So I could do a lot of the gymnastics movements really quickly, but I didn't take to a lot of the weightlifting or the like super complex stuff, the high skill stuff right away. So when that started to click like 2 years down the road, and I realized that all that scaling, all that hard work had paid off, it was like, oh, it may have taken me a little bit, but like now I'm on this track and it feels really good. And that's a good thing. And mentally, that's hard to understand in the moment. And I had a conversation with one of my athletes probably 2 or 3 days ago about that. It's like it's really hard to get that like 10,000 foot view, right? You can't you. It's hard to see it when you're in it. So I'm sure I think in that span of 2 years, all I wanted to do was like RX the workout. All I
Mhm.
wanted to do was like clean 225 or be able to snatch the RX weight on Isabel. Like, and because I couldn't just yet, I kind of got a little defeated some days. But it's like the biggest thing was now looking back on it, you can see that. You can see, oh, like 2 years ago I was here and now I'm here. Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, look what my body can do. But being in it, I think is the biggest challenge itself, is like not being able to remove yourself to the point where you're like, oh, this is where I was, this is where I am, and that's where I could be. Um, that's like that's a big that's a big mindset shift, I think. And having that mindset is probably one of the biggest challenges, like that I see with people trying to achieve those goals. Um, Having conversations with members all the time, they're like, well, like I just don't know if I don't know if I'm gonna get there. I don't like like this is all standing in the way. I'm like, well, I mean, let's take a look back. Like you were like 6 months ago, like you just walked in the door and like you didn't know what any of this was, and you just did your first pull-ups yesterday. Like, that's incredible.
Mhm.
So I think that reminder is huge.
Yeah, and having a coach there, right? I mean, going to Planet Fitness, right? It's cheap, it's great, all that stuff. It's, everybody can go, but you don't have that coach there to help you through those kind of things, right? That, and you go in and the workouts are programmed for you. You don't need to think about anything. You just show up. But like going through the challenges, you learn to get better with CrossFit and even just working out in general, having the coach there, having the get through that. And I think it's good to lead group class.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think the environment of like group classes is it, it's incredible. Like I have seen people do some things that they never thought they could do because of being in that group class, right? And it's like there's certainly we've all been in the classes in the gyms where it's like, yeah, it can be like you and your buddies, and then it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna throw down. It's time to get intense about this and competitive. But I I know I've had the benefit of being in a lot of gyms and class environments that I've like dropped into where even if I'm a stranger, it's super supportive. Like, you got this. Like, kind of people reminding you to be consistent and accountable, and having those coaches there on the floor that you get in the unique like CrossFit space, right? Where it's like at the emphasis should be on good coaching. It should be on like making sure these athletes are moving safely and with proper intensity, not just like going in and maxing out every day. And like you said, like you don't get that when you're in a gym by yourself. You don't get that with your like putting your headphones on in the corner of Planet Fitness, like trying to like just do some dumbbell bench. It's a very different feeling, and I've always seen, and I still continue to see it Enlighten, that is one of the biggest drivers of success for my athletes.
For sure. And have you ever read the book The Gap and the Gain by Ben Hardy? It talks about comparing yourself with versus where you are for the future and where you've come from. So like the gap is, hey, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go, look how far I have to go, versus the gain where you can look back and say, hey, look at how far I've come. And sometimes it's easy to do that for yourself, but other times you need the community around you to push you, to help you realize that and recognize that. And that just creates more motivation. And it's, like you said before, it's hard when you're in the moment to recognize that, but that's the beauty of community, right? Again, whether it's CrossFit or not, I think any type of group led class, whether it's spinning or yoga or anything like that, that they don't have necessarily a competitive nature to them, but anything where there's a group of people that are doing the same thing and somebody leading you in health, fitness, and even business too, like just that community support is the big thing. And just seeing where you've come and still having a vision of where you want to go, right? You talked about how those couple of years you were like, I don't really have any goals. I don't really know what I was working towards. So as you're developing these skills and relationships and, getting to the point where it's like, okay, maybe I'm actually pretty good at this and I'm really enjoying it. At what point did you start developing goals? What did those goals kind of look like? And, how did you hit them?
Yeah, I'd always been really goal oriented as a kid. Swimming is one of those sports, like I started from a really young age, that I just realized, like, you're always striving for a time. And it's like, whether it's to make a time to get on the podium, whether it's a time to qualify for a big meet, to make like a national meet, college conference meet, whatever it is, like there's always those benchmarks that, like, so that was really easy for me to latch on to that as a, like, hey, these are my goals. But as soon as I didn't have that, that's when that aspect of goal setting just kind of like went away for me. I was like, I just didn't understand the concept of, like, create a goal for yourself. Like, what do you want to accomplish? And I think that's why that, like, little weird 2 years was like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want out of fitness or health or why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so when I got into the gym a little bit more consistently, I got into the CrossFit gym, and I was like, okay, I got to kind of mix that aspect of, like, oh, I want to hit this time on Fran because it would be awesome. It would be better than what I did the last time. Or I want to lift this weight because it'll be heavier than what I lifted last time. And that was like kind of my step back into, like, really thinking about, like, my journey of fitness and how I could kind of like change my mindset, my shift, my body, like how I was approaching fitness physically and mentally, to achieve these things. And then my goal setting process became like, where do I want to be physically in a year, right? Like, what would that look like? And I started to kind of picture, okay, well, like, I know these might be the numbers, but what does that feel like? Does it feel like I'm, like, big and buff and strong and I'm just like the biggest guy on the block? Or does it feel like I am moving better than I did before? Does it feel like I am really dialed in with, like, where my food needs to be? One of my big things was always, especially as I got competitive in CrossFit, I was like, I am too small. I need to be bigger. So I was like, you need to eat more. Try and eat more food. So I was like, okay, I set the goal, like, in 6 months, I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle. So that means I need to eat a lot of food. And then it was like, okay, did I hit that? Yes. All right, let's go again. Like, in 6 months, I want to put on 3 more pounds. Like, and that was really, really helpful because I kind of started to be able to goal set in the form of, like, telling myself a story of, like, where do I want to be at this time and how do I get there? And I started giving myself these benchmarks, personally, not necessarily like benchmarks always in the gym. And that kind of changed my mindset a little bit. And I think it really helped me connect with, athletes I was coaching a lot too. Cause I was coaching at the time when I got out of college, I was coaching a high school swim team as well. So I started coaching swimming at the high school I work at. And talking to high school athletes about goal setting, and high school swimmers, especially, who, like I once was, were so dialed into, like, this is the time I need to hit. And talking to them more about, like, hey, well, what does that look like? Right. What does that mean? Like, your day-to-day goals should be like my daily accomplishments. What does it look like in 2 months when you're in the dregs of December, the dark, dreary times of December, and it's 5:30 a.m. and we're asking you to get in the pool. What does that look like? So that was like kind of reframing it and understanding like how to set those goals a little bit better for myself helped me in the long run become a better coach too. So that was helpful.
Yeah. So how did you like figure out those? I know like, you're coaching people through it because you've done it yourself. Was it just like trial by error? I'm going to figure it out. And then, obviously you got better at it as you did it, but also as you taught more people how to set their goals.
Yeah. So I would do a lot of like reading and research and like listening to people who talk a lot about goal setting and like I mean we all know that the like going through like the SMART goals and talking to other people who I knew were really goal oriented, coaches I had and had was connected with at the time, and so I started kind of like putting pieces together of like what worked for me, and that that was really it. It didn't always have this like concrete form, but it definitely, I think, using my resources, like doing a lot of reading and being curious and watching videos and talking to people, like that helps you form this like big picture that you can then mold into like what works for you personally. And that's the most important thing, because the biggest thing about goal setting that I've learned is that if the process doesn't work for you, that goal is not going to get accomplished.
Mhm.
So the process of creating the goal has to work for you as much as the process of getting to that goal has to work for you.
Mhm. And did you lean on those processes? I mean, I'm sure you went through a bunch of different processes to kind of figure out what allowed you to make those goals work and happen. Did you have any other resources or people, accountability people that helped you like hold you? Like I know you can create the best process, but even that, there's like those days where it's just like I don't have it, but I know that, my buddy or, my coach is gonna be like, hey, how did you do the thing you said you were gonna do today? Did you have any resources like that kind of outside?
Oh yeah. I mean, I leaned on the community. I would lean on like my fiance now. Like at the time I would be like, I even if I was like dead tired, I'd be like, hey, like let's go work out. Like let's make sure we go work out. She was there to like keep me accountable. Like my buddy like would always keep me accountable. Like we ironically enough, like we kind of like connected through the gym, but we also like our classrooms are right next door to each other
Mhm.
at school. So like every day, like we're talking and like keeping tabs on like, okay, well, where are you at with this? What are you doing with that? Like, did you hit your squats today? Kind of thing. And that those people in your corner is the biggest difference. Like for me, I'm very much like I love kind of like connecting with people and like really community driven, really people driven. And I need those people to be accountable. Like a great story when was this? Probably 2019. I I set the goal for myself to go get my CrossFit L2, and it was kind of a scary thing for me. And I don't know why I was scared of it, because it was something that was going to help me grow. But it was like, oh, all right, I got to go do this course. I got to like sit down and take this little test that it was, and I think it was like putting myself as a coach out there a little bit more, where I'd gotten so comfortable as an athlete. Like it was like, oh, go do this thing to level up as a coach. And I put that goal out there and I told a bunch of people at the gym. And like as time starts ticking by, they're like, did you sign up yet? Did you sign up yet? Did you sign up yet? And like it finally got to the point where like everyone kept asking me and kept bugging me if I had done this thing or gone to like sign up to get my L2 yet. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. Like I'm going. And I finally like went and took it, and it was great. Like, so putting it out there for those people into that community was kind of one of the things that like really tipped me over the edge to be able to go do that.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it always comes back to community and accountability and brothership and all that for sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about a lot of different things. And one thing I like to ask people who have success in, health and fitness or, business, real estate, whatever it is hasn't been to the what's the one thing they can do that will make the process easier or increase the chance of them being successful just getting started?
So what was that again? So it's like, so for someone who hasn't kind of taken the first step yet, like
Yeah,
what's
yeah, somebody who's coming into the gym and they're new or trying to get restarted, what's the biggest tip that you can give them?
be consistent. I think that that is uh, that above pretty much anything else will get you to where you want to be. It's like I said, it's at the beginning it can be really scary, but if you can be consistent a week down the road, 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road, like you will thank yourself for that consistency, because the repetition of that just becomes then second nature, right? Like it's like, oh, this is what I do. It's like it's part of who I am. So I think I tell people that all the time. Is like I people walk into my gym, I sit down, I have a conversation with them, and obviously like I ask them, hey, what would you like to see yourself do in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years? Like what is your perfect picture? And like, okay, now the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself is just keep going. Like just be consistent. And when you latch onto those things, like a lot of times walking into the gym, the thing that gets people is like, oh, well, doing fitness can be hard. But it's like, yeah, but you showed up today. That was hard. Show up tomorrow. Then show up the next day. Right. And soon down the road, it's like you're 2 years into this thing, you're 2 years into this fitness journey, and you're a whole different person. So I think be consistent and trust yourself. That's huge.
Yeah, I love that. And consistency sometimes is, like you said, just showing up. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be perfect. You don't have to always go balls to the wall. It's just get in there and do something. I mean, shit, there's days that I don't feel like going, but it's like I just need to go. And
Yeah.
even it's like I'm gonna half-ass the workout. I'm gonna do everything right. I'm gonna move right. But if I don't push it, I don't push it. Most of the time, by the time I get moving, I'm like, all right, let's do this thing,
Yeah.
And you don't ever, at least I have never left the gym, even if it's a bad workout or a workout that I didn't give it my all. And I knew that, where I was like, oh man, I regret coming. Right. Rarely ever. I don't think that's ever happened where I've left the gym and been like, I shouldn't have came today.
Yeah, I don't think in 8 or 9 years since I started this, like I don't think there's been one time I've left the gym and been like, yeah, I shouldn't have gone. Like that was the worst. No, it always ends up being like a positive. Like it's always a net positive. And I found the same thing too applies in so many other areas of life. It's like health and fitness can teach you so much about yourself as a person, even outside of the gym, which is again one of the things that I love about what I get to do with a CrossFit gym is like the whole goal is to make you fit and healthy and have a good mindset like outside of the gym as much as it is inside of the gym. And so like I found like my kind of mantra of being consistent and just showing up like in fitness has really helped me in business as well. And that's like that has been the craziest revelation for me is that consistency of like, hey, like this is like I have no formal business degree training. Like I kind of like started this gym because I love what I do and uh I love helping people. And I was like, keep going, like keep showing up for the business side of it. Like keep doing these things that are gonna move the needle. And like that consistency, even if every day it's like it's not perfect. Like I said, I think I told you this before, like some days where that overlap of like I'm coaching swimming, teaching a full day, planning a wedding, having to run the gym. It's like the last thing I want to do is have to like run reports or look at these things. And I'm like, just do it. Like keep consistent. And that again makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into the business side of this podcast. And so you started a gym or bought and rebranded the gym, and the fitness side gave you the confidence that all right, I can work through this. I know what it takes, goal setting, consistency, and all that. but give me a little more background on the gym, right? Where did the name come from? I love the name. So I never asked you where it came from, and kind of the process of, okay, I'm going to make the leap and trust myself that I can do this thing that I've never done before.
Yeah. So we bought and rebranded the gym in August of last year. So August 1st of last year was technically our first official day. And the name, I don't know how many people know this, but trying to pick a name for your CrossFit affiliate is a stressful process because it can't be the same as any other CrossFit affiliate. So, I mean, we're many years into this CrossFit thing now at this point, and a lot of the really good names are taken. Um, but I kind of sat down and as we were getting started, like I guess it was probably like one of the days in the first like 2 weeks that we had opened, like really kind of reopened the gym. We had closed down for a little bit and like basically renovated the inside of the gym. I sat down and started making a list of like, okay, well, like what are the goals of the gym? Like what do I want to accomplish within the construct of this business? And what are those core values? Kind of like a lot of the standard, like, okay, let's figure out the core values. Let's figure out the mission statement. I was putting all this down on paper, and the one thing that kept coming up in all of these things was like to educate people, right? Like, and that's, I'm a teacher. Like I truly do want to educate people in health and fitness. Like I want to help them reach their goals. And that kept coming up, like that word kept coming up, to educate. And so I started kind of thinking about like, oh, what are some of these, what are maybe some synonyms or like weird references I could make in the name. And I stumbled upon like CrossFit Enlighten, right? I want to enlighten people. Like this is the enlightenment. And it just stuck. It sounded good. And so like I put in the request for the name and they're like, you're good. You got it. That's yours. And so that became the brand. It was really cool. And it's so fitting. Like my fiance is also a teacher. So kind of between the two of us, like we like really enjoy being able to like teach people and help kind of shed light on things.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think having a passion for something is obviously super important, but having the name, as not important as it might seem and as hard as it might seem, it is super important because it does set the foundation of, this is the first thing that people are going to see when it comes to the gym. And so having a good story behind it is always helpful in selling the gym and selling the vision and selling the values that you have, because CrossFit's such a community driven, fitness event or sport, whatever you want to call it, that having it start with the name and having that have meaning, people really latch onto that, and that helps develop the culture within the gym, within the coaches, within the athletes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that having that kind of big brand like front and center when people are walking into our gym on the sign is like CrossFit Enlighten. Like, hey, this is, you're walking into a space where like we're going to help you. The community's here to be a light to you and show you what fitness can be, not only now, but like in your 70s and 80s when like you're playing with grandkids or great grandkids. And that little bit of like education and kind of giving people exposure to that side of the health and fitness realm has been a huge part of like our brand and like what I hope the gym is portrayed as.
Yeah, 100%. And so, you're going through, obviously you're building a brand, you're renovating it, you're building this new business. It's been 11 months or almost a year. And what are some of the like highlights of it? And then what are some of the challenges that you've had to deal with over the past year?
Yeah, the highlights is definitely that it's super awesome being to be in there every day and like do the thing that I love doing. Like I enjoy teaching. Teach high school English. Like I enjoy that. Like I enjoy like the teaching aspect of it. But like I think the thing that I'm truly passionate about is fitness and training and working with people in the health and fitness realm. And that part is absolutely incredible. We have grown exponentially in 11 months. Like it's been pretty awesome to see people come to us and like enjoy what we do and buy into the process. So that's super. That is like a huge highlight that I get to go in there and do that every day. I've learned a heck of a lot. So like the learning process for me myself has been great. I got my L3 in January. So like that, being able to dive back in and like kind of study, make myself a better coach, make myself a better like business owner through that has been a huge blessing. And that like it has just been so much fun. Like it is so much fun to be in that position to like craft this thing to be your baby, like what you want it to be, the vision, right? And as for the challenges, I think the biggest thing for me, obviously, like I said, I don't really have any formal business experience. I started this business mostly because I love coaching and I love working with people, which I feel like is how a lot of CrossFit affiliates start up. Like you got the coach that loves what they do and they just decide to start a business. I think my biggest challenge, though, weirdly enough, has been this like nagging imposter syndrome, like that I just feel often that like, can I do this? Like, should I be doing this? And like those questions pop up a lot. And I have great people in my corner, and they are definitely like the best support system to kind of help through that. Is like, hey, when you're the guy, when you're the one making the decisions and the one in charge and the one that people come to when there's a problem, like there definitely are these thoughts of like, am I the right guy for this job? And that imposter syndrome is really tough to get over. And I think having the people that I have in my corner and the community that we have in Enlighten has 1000% really shifted my attention to like, this can be something special. So it kind of helps kind of negate that challenge a little bit of like getting over my own insecurities of running a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that imposter syndrome goes with anything at any time, anywhere, and it's always there. And I think it's just always battling it, right? It'll always pop up. Not that it's always there, but it'll always pop up no matter what level you're at, right? If you ended up working your way up to the CEO of CrossFit or whatever, like I'm sure he has imposter syndrome too, right? It comes with the territory, right? You're working out, you're competing as an athlete, whether it is CrossFit or even swimming. It's like, am I the leader that I should be or can be? Like, can I do this? It just always pops up. I don't know why our brains are wired that way. I guess it's you want to fit in, and by putting yourself out there, you're like, am I fitting in? Am I causing friction anywhere? But it's always there. And I think it's good that you're able to lean on the community, lean on, your fiance and work through that, because it pops up randomly for whatever reason. And then you just work through it and you go, yeah, this is right. And sometimes it's like, you just need a third party being like, you're good. Like everything is fine.
100%. Yeah. That is for sure. Having it, when you have those people in your corner, you have the support systems, you have the community like that, lean on it, because that will get you to places that you can't get to by yourself. Right. It's like, what do they say? It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. Something like that.
Yeah. I love that quote. It's so fitting and it's so perfect.
Oh yeah. It's great.
So you have the business, your swim coach, teacher, soon to be husband, all that stuff. So how do you balance all of that, right? Somebody who's got one thing going on or just trying to get one thing, they're like, I can't even imagine doing one thing, let alone all of those. How do you find time and then make sure that all of the roles that you're playing get equal amount of attention to satisfy yourself and the people around you?
Yeah, that is managing time might be the most challenging thing, but I am also a creature of habit. So it's like when I get into a routine, my routine like is pretty regimented. I do. I like to kind of like, I took a lesson from, I don't know if you ever read AMREP Mentality from
Mhm.
Jason Khalipa.
Mhm.
It's good. In it, he talks a lot about like when he's doing something, he's AMRAPing that thing, right? He's giving his attention to do the best at that thing. So it's like he uses the example of when he's in the gym, like that's time to focus on the gym, right? It's like he's not focusing on the gym when he's at his son's school conferences. So for me, it's like I try and kind of block out those aspects of my life too. It's like, okay, when I'm getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go coach the 5:30 a.m. class, like that's what I'm doing right then. Like I need to get my coaching hat on and I need to give everything as a coach to that class because like they're showing up at 5:30 in the morning to get their workout in. When I get to school, like that school day, like I need to give my students my attention. Like they are there to learn about the English language and literature. So like, hey, give everything to that lesson. And after school, it's usually like, okay, I'm going to set aside this time to work on gym stuff, or if it's a day where I'm at the pool and working on swimming stuff. So I think kind of blocking it out and when I'm doing something, like I'm giving my attention to that thing has been really helpful in helping me manage all the different hats that I have to wear. Um, Self-imposed hats that I have to wear. I definitely do this to myself, as Nicole will often remind me. Um, so it's it's so helpful. Like that is one thing where it's like if I can give my attention to this thing for this amount of time, it's like it has also allowed me that time at home where it's like I do have all these things going on in life where I'm running a business, I'm still coaching, I'm coaching a swim team, I'm a teacher, like but if I can kind of AMRAP that time at home too to take the lesson from Khalifa's book is like I'm here. I'm giving my attention to like my fiance, our dogs. Like we get to go for a walk, or like I'm just relaxing on the couch. Like that those little bits of time where I get to like also just have that downtime because like that's what it calls for. Um, Gives me the opportunity to like then okay, all right, well tomorrow morning getting up and doing it again. Like gotta block that time out. So yeah, being really regimented is helpful. Like being in a routine is really helpful. Um, but also knowing where I need to give my attention at what times.
Yeah, that's super important. It's so easy, especially nowadays with the internet and social media and cell phones, and getting caught up in multitasking, right? You're listening to a podcast while you're working, while something else is going on in the background, and you're not giving full focus on any one thing. So it's like 33% effort on three different things. Are you really going to get anything done? Like there's so many days where when I'm trying to do everything at one time, or I'm not focused on what I'm doing, I'm not present with what I'm doing, that I get to the end of the day and I go, what did I even get accomplished? So I love that you're just like, no, this is the thing I'm doing for the next hour, the next 90 minutes. And that's getting my full fledged attention because nothing else matters at this moment. And I'll deal with all the other stuff later.
Yeah, and that has been really helpful. Like, I mean, case in point, like so I write all the programming for our gym too. And like I'll set aside an hour or 90 minutes just to work on programming. And in the middle of it, all of a sudden I get this idea of like, oh, I want to make this like post for the gym. I wanna put together this like marketing campaign. And I'm like, wait, no, stop, redirect. Like you're sitting here working on programming. Like finish the programming, then you can take 30 minutes to like write down notes on this marketing campaign. Like that's a I definitely catch myself or my brain starts being all scattered. But if you can redirect to be like, hey, no, like this time is set aside for this, or like you're in this moment, like be in that moment. Yeah, it's like you'll win 10 times out of 10.
100%. And you'll enjoy it a lot more because your
Oh
brain's
yeah.
not in 9 different directions. And then you get anxiety because I'm not getting anything done, but I'm also doing everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I did so much, but I got nothing done.
Yeah. Exactly. I read a thing. I got on one of the email newsletters that I'm on where she was saying that to figure out what tasks you should be focusing on and to be more mindful of how often she's switching is every time she went from one task to another, no matter how long of time that was, right? Even if it was for 30 seconds working on something else or even just picking up her phone, she would pick up a Post-it note and write what task she switched to and like post it up. So she was more mindful of how often am I switching things. And then at the end of the day, you have, all of these Post-it notes like, okay, where's my time really spent? Where should it be spent? And then where are the other things that I can get rid of? So it's just like a way to be more mindful and then a way to figure out what should I be focusing on and then learn to just focus on that thing during whatever time period I've allotted for it. So I thought that was a little interesting thing that I just saw.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like the little like Post-it note reminders. That's cool.
So just so many different little things to figure out. It's just funny that we're talking about that. And I just saw something today that kind of correlates with it. So
yeah, that is funny. That's awesome.
So what are moving forward, right? It's been almost a year. Like, what are your plans, goals, vision for the next 6 months, next year with the gym?
Yeah, like I am really now that 11 months in, I feel like I've got a handle on a lot of things. I'm over the next year looking to kind of grow the gym a little bit more. I'd like to see us add a handful of new members and continue to reach out to the community. I am a firm believer in if there are people out there that haven't set foot into our gym or a CrossFit gym yet, like there are still people out there that need us to help them. So um, probably going to get into a little bit more of like the marketing side heavy. I spent a lot of time over the past year focusing on like the operations side of the business and the class experience for our members, but now I want to dive into like outreach and marketing aspect of the gym. So I'd like to see over the next year kind of add some members, and really like as a coach personally, because I still just have a love for coaching. I have some like small projects that I'd like to accomplish, putting out some um, like one-off program ebooks for people to use in different like gymnastic skills, Ollie programs. So that's kind of a project that me and a buddy of mine who coaches at the gym have been playing around with and toying with putting out over the next probably 6 months. Yeah, I think that's like kind of the direction there with the gym is just keep growing and keep exposing people outside of the gym to who we are and what we do and who we serve. And that's I think that'll be good. That'll be like the next kind of iteration of Enlighten over the next year.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I follow you on there. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that stuff. And maybe we can start implementing some similar stuff over at our gym and get that out there. At the end of the day, it's work together. Let's get people in the CrossFit gyms. Like you said, whether it's my gym or your gym or anybody else's gym, we know the benefits of it. I recommend it to everybody because of the benefits of it. So I think it's super important just to expose as many people to improving their lives through health and fitness for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like there's so many people that we have yet to reach. Like, and that's and again, your gym, my gym, any gym, there's like kind of spread the good word of like what health and fitness can do for you in the long term. Like longevity is the key, and that's I think that's the big mission.
For sure. You mentioned being able to play with your kids or grandkids down the road, right? Right now for us is like, how can I push myself? How can I improve? At some point it's going to be, hey, I just want to come in, move for an hour. I just want to be healthy enough so that way when I'm 75, my great grandkids or my kids, grandkids, I can be running around in the yard with them and not have to worry about even just getting up sometimes, So it's like the longevity and the health, that different stages of your life. CrossFit can cover all of that. Health and fitness covers all of that.
Yeah, and that's huge. Like, and it's the big thing that I try and tell people too is like it is never too late to start, right? It's like it does not matter if you're 20 years old college student or you are like in your 70s. Like you can start at any time and you will still benefit, like reap the benefits of movement, right? It's like that is huge.
For sure. So where can people reach out to you or find out more about your gym? Anything that you say we can include in the show notes and all that, just so it's easier. But best way to reach out to you and get in touch with your gym if they want to drop by in the Philly area and want to give it a shot.
Yeah, so you can find me at Coach Zach Wills at on Instagram. You can also reach me through the CrossFit Enlighten Instagram page or Facebook. You can head to our website, crossfitenlighten.com. We got our class schedule. There's little links to fill out forms to drop in or just get more information about the gym. So yeah, any of those platforms, they can reach out, ask questions. Like I said, my personal Instagram page, Coach Zach Wills, I'm putting up different videos on movement and some of my favorite things, some of the workouts that I'm doing currently. So it kind of gives people two sides of like, hey, this is what I do to train, and also this is like my suggestion as a coach, what you can do to kind of improve your health and fitness. So if anyone's looking for different programming tips or scaling tips, that's where best place to reach me, and hopefully you learn something from it.
Sweet. Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do a follow-up, whatever, 6 months, a year from now, see how things are going, get some more updates. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and look forward to a follow-up. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Hey, thanks, man.